You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 1220 a.m., and now coming to you on FM at 98.1. This is SCVI Charter Schools, Our Way on the Highway, and I'm Chris Nilsson, your host. I'd like to welcome in studio today our guests from the College of the Canyons Makerspace, Andy McCutcheon, Chris Walker, and Renee Marshall. Can you each tell us what your role is at College of the Canyons?
Hi, I'm Andy McCutcheon. I'm the Dean for the School of Humanities and Makerspace, and that's what I do.
I'm Chris Walker, and I'm the Operations Coordinator for Makerspace.
My name is Renee Marshall, and I've been at College of the Canyons since 2004 in quite a few different capacities, but right now I like to call myself a Makerspace advocate because I totally believe in what we're doing with the Makerspace movement, and it's been a pleasure to work with this team for the past year.
That's great. And we also have with us Kathleen Fredette, who is iLEAD School's Director of STEAM Initiatives. Welcome, Kathleen.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
Renee, you have a little bit of history with SCVI. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I actually have quite a long history with SCVI. I'm very, very lucky in that respect. When I was an adjunct faculty member in the early childhood education department at College of the Canyons, I was contacted by my dean at the time, Diane Stewart. And at the time, I was literally an elementary school teacher during the day. I'd come to in the Castaic district, so in one of our local elementary districts. I'd come to teach at College of the Canyons at night, and I was teaching their intro to teaching class, helping the next generation of teachers. And then just kind of things, changed over time, and we've had some different developments. And one of the cool things is Diane approached me and said, there's a woman named Amber Raskin, and she would like to start a school in town and is looking for an education expert. And having been at College of the Canyons, I've been lucky to be there, but I also have a past history where I'm a credentialed K through 12 teacher. I'm also credentialed as an administrator K through 12. And so they needed somebody who could kind of talk both sides. And so I met with Amber outside of our Child Development Center at College of the Canyons. And we sat there for hours brainstorming what a dream school would be. Amber's concept was looking at the Child Development Center at College of the Canyons, which one of the core values of the Child Development Center is really honoring where a child is while you're helping them to get to the next level in terms of their development. And Amber really wanted to try to create a school that really had that as a foundation. And so we sat together, we literally created what we called the Dream School. And then I was contracted to write the charter for SCVI. And this was, so far back, we were meeting at Paseo Club. This was right before Dawn. I had helped to get Dawn hired. I was on the initial board. And so we wrote this Dream School. And then there were some other groups that helped along, sent it up to Sacramento, and then next thing you know, it was real and tangible. And so it's really been exciting to have the opportunity to really be with SCVI and the iLEAD schools from the very beginning. When I go inside the schools, it's so wonderful. You look on the wall and I see, the founding board members and the people who started it over 10 years ago. And it's really cool to be part of that.
That is so cool. Your role now at COC?
Right now at College of the Canyons, I actually, earlier this year, I stepped back from being an administrator on campus. I had been administering the teacher preparation program on campus for over a decade. And I love teacher preparation, but I also had some other interests and some other initiatives that I kind of wanted to get involved in. So I stepped back from being an administrator, and that allowed me to kind of then work on a couple different things at one time. So I'm still assisting with teacher preparation, though Gina Peterson has taken over and she is stellar. I'm still helping her a little bit here and there, but I'm also helping the Makerspace program as well on campus.
That's great. So let's talk about why makerspaces. Why are they so important to people?
I'll start for very quickly. Kids need to tinker as early as possible. We need them to be touching things, to be experimenting, to just have opportunities for failing. And Makerspace really allows that. And something I love about Makerspace is it's for every age. It's intergenerational. It's a place that people come together, and it doesn't matter if you're a novice or an expert. You can be working side by side. You can walk into the Makerspace, and a 14-year-old may have a higher skill set than this 44-year-old woman that's sitting next to them. And it's such a beautiful opportunity to collaborate in a way that we really haven't seen, especially when we're looking at K through 12 and the college, and it's so hands-on. It's not just like we're going to go do an event together, or it's a very different level of partnership.
Yeah, I'm just going to add on to that, when kids are young, there's no end to their curiosity. we can remember why, mommy, why, daddy, why, almost like to where you want to say stop. And then something happens when they get into education, and their natural innate curiosity somehow gets squashed. And a makerspace allows for that natural curiosity to begin to develop again and to be piqued and to just go, I just want to explore and I want to poke at this and I want to see what's going to happen. And then to be able to do that with different age level folks and to say, this is meaningful. This isn't something in addition to, this is actually at the root of learning.
I love the whys there too, because instead of like immediately coming to an answer, it's a very good place to go, well, why do you think? And so then it extends our conversations, it extends our dialogue and our deeper understanding of why we really are doing what we're doing. Whatever that may be, whether it's a 3D project that somebody's working on or if somebody's on a CNC machine.
Well, and to expand on that a little bit, a lot of children, they learn by doing and exploring. And sometimes for children, curriculum out of a book and sitting in a classroom and papers and this seems boring. But when they get their hands on something, and especially if it's something they enjoy or like to do, then that's when the real learning starts.
So, Chris, I'm going to counter that and say it's not just kids.
It's adults
it's
as
me
well.
Too.
Yeah, I'm
It's
the
me
same way.
too. And so while books are important and concepts are important and we do have to have that, very few of us can just ingest through concept the philosophy of something and then actually apply it. And so going back to how do I create something, and most people can remember when they talk about their education, they can remember times when they did something. Those are the projects or the initiatives that stick in their mind that were pivotal for their development. It was when I worked on the car with Dad, or when I got to go over and play with this plane, or when I got to go over here and do something in woodworking. And so I think we're honoring how we actually learn when the makerspace honors that and elevates that to an educational level.
I think to piggyback on that, at the higher education level, for a while now, we've been talking about the necessity for applied learning or interdisciplinary collaboration to kind of see how these skill sets that students acquire in specific disciplines are relevant across disciplines, because that's how we apply them in the real world, not in the confines of whatever your class is, So I think the cool thing about Makerspace is it gives an opportunity for those kinds of collaborations across disciplines, between college and K through 12, as well as really exposing that process. Again, the idea of, how we learn. My background is English, and it's a very process-driven. We think about the paper at the end or the product, and with something like Makerspace, you might think about the end product, but really it's as much about the process and exposing that process and making that a learning, teaching moment. So it's really exciting stuff. Yeah.
It's very exciting to see learners when they get so passionate. For me, learning as well, hands-on. I wish that we had maker spaces way back in the day. For myself, because it's awesome learning, and I love to see it at school, and I get to on a daily basis.
They did used to have woodshop, but not everybody was allowed in that class.
Oh, can I tell? I have actually from when I was in 7th grade. I still completely own this. It's like a little slanted piece of wood, and what I chose to use to cut out in sand was a peace sign. So a hand that's a peace sign. I still own that, and I still have it to this day. Yes.
You're so right. I did take wood shop, and I made this awesome magazine rack. And it was awesome. I remember that from middle school. One of the only positive things, I think, was that wood shop
I remember
class.
wanting to take a hands-on class when I was in high school, and I went to a private school down in the San Fernando Valley, and I was told I had to take AP Bio, that kids like me don't take hands-on. Which I will tell you right now, I wish I knew more hands-on, because I don't fix as much as I can. I have a couple master's degrees, and I have that side, but it's frustrating when there's like basic skills. And so it really comes down to basic skills and even universal skills and mistakes. There's so many mistakes, but mistakes are opportunity. And, we know so many children are really struggling. Children and young adults and adults are struggling with the concept of failure. So the more opportunities we have to fail throughout our life, the more resilient we are, and the more we figure out how to pick up and deal with those failures. And Makerspace is a great place to do that, because a lot of times your failures can turn into success.
Yes.
And it can turn into something that you didn't even anticipate. And so I really think it even in a sense gives you kind of a different perspective of what failure is. And for kids and people to grasp that early, it can only benefit them.
Do you know, I was recently with a group of high-level aerospace type people, and they were talking about who do we need for our workforce? Who are we looking for? And absolutely over and over again in the room was we need individuals that can collaborate, that can think outside the box, that can come up with another way to do it, because if we're going to get to Mars, it's actually not the plan that we have right now. If we're going to do interstellar stuff, if we're going to figure out how to do this hypersonic plane over the land, we need someone who's going to think about it differently. And so they were saying again and again in this room how important it was for kids to be doing and making mistakes and learning from those so that they can begin to think of another way rather than this is the path and the path always has to end in a success or an A.
I think the industry is reframing things too, because you even look at Silicon Valley and you look at these high-level companies that people want to work for, where there used to be education requirements that would gatekeep them and not allow them in. And they're pulling those requirements because they're realizing that, sometimes a degree leads you to exactly where you need to be, but not always. And especially as the world is changing and things are different. And, we know that at this point, we can't anticipate the jobs that are coming. We really can't. They're just totally, and so we need to get these universal skills so people can be prepared for the workforce in general.
Right.
It seems like what we're being forced to do is what we need to do, which is change education and the way that we're approaching education. And so the needs are, and the demand is here. You either keep doing it the same way and you're not going to get the result that you want, or you make changes and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be messy, and it's going to it's a huge entity, education in general, from K up through university. But how can we begin to shift so that we are really meeting the needs of those that we're educating and then meeting the needs of our world, because the problems and the challenges are different.
Right, and education can't remain static. It has to be dynamic.
Well, and that goes to Dr. Van Hook, and what our Chancellor, Dr. Van Hook, says on campus all the time is this innovative? How is this innovative? How is this going to push the needle? No, but we don't want to just be doing same old, same old. We want to be looking at practices and saying what are best practices that we can be sharing, that we all know will increase student success, whether that student is 5 years old, 15 years old, or they're 35 or 75 and they're a re-entry student. We want to make sure that that's available for everybody. So innovation is key. And Dr. Van Hook has been leading. Well, and just to note, Dr. Van Hook has been a force in terms of getting this makerspace going.
Absolutely.
At College of the Canyons, her support has been absolutely essential. We now have spaces on both campuses, both our Valencia and Canyon Country campus. Even when there was no funding, we're like, well, how do we figure this out? And how do we make it work? And so when you have stellar education champions who value innovation, leading the charge, it's like you can't help but just jump on and go, okay, what can I do to help this out? Because this is the way that we need to be moving.
I love this about you guys, and I love that we get to partner together, because one of the other things is what I noticed is that you went after the funding, you created this beautiful space, and then we're like, okay, and now how do we use this? How do we develop the programs and the projects that are going to move this to the next level? So there is that sense that we're making a space and we're figuring it out as we go to make it more effective. And I love the model that you have, and love that what we're doing at our campuses is the same thing. We're so glad to be partnering with you guys.
Oh, you guys are great.
It's a lot of fun to partner with people who are interested in being collaborative, and who, when we hit roadblocks, they go, okay, step back, how do we make this work? And so one thing I think that we have seen universally is you guys do that. iLEAD and the SCVI, I mean, all the schools within the iLEAD system have been very inclusive, and I believe COC is a place of inclusion as well. So it's wonderful to partner with you.
And as a college counselor and speaking with the learners, I hope they're listening that how important maker spaces are, that colleges are looking for kids to be thinkers and problem solvers, which is a great opportunity. And it's not about the grade and the transcript all the time, especially at the smaller colleges, which we do talk about. So thank you guys for partnering with us. It's wonderful. Kathleen, I have a question for you. Can you talk about what STEM is and what STEAM is?
All right, so STEM started getting really cool probably around, I think the first time I heard it, I was like, what is that? And now we all know it. That was probably around 2010 or 11, science, technology, engineering, math, and that came out of the fact that there was a lack of really skilled, folks in that area, and we were actually having to go outside of our own country to get folks in who were skilled in the sciences, technology, engineering, math. So there's a big push in our country. So we've moved that to STEAM now. I will never go to STREAM, just saying, but I will embrace STEAM, and that's part of my title, because arts and design are also. So the A is arts, and if you look at anything from an iPhone to an aircraft to like anything even in this room.
My water bottle.
Thank you, thank you. It's always, there's that piece of aesthetics. And so design is also something that is innate within us to make things beautiful. And so that's where the A comes in. And that's also part of the engineering design process to how to make something workable, functional, and also beautiful.
I also think being so close to the industry, I mean, like, we're so lucky in Santa Clarita that our students are really close to a lot of different career opportunities. And there's so many opportunities within the industry, that are not very far away. It would seem almost a disservice for us to keep the A out. Because for many of our kids, that A will be a lifeline and will be a very, very lucrative future for them.
Absolutely. There's two things I was going to mention. There's a big aerospace conference that we're part of, and we're doing a presentation about the A in aerospace connected to arts, and how actually, like, if you go to many NASA centers, you'll see on the walls these amazing murals, and the murals are a picture of where we're headed and what we've done. And so, science fiction and art in science fiction is actually not just out there in some kind of bizarre woo thing. It actually is what someone is imagining, and then it'll be implemented. Right. And there's stories about this that are actually crazy when you peel them back, how important the imagination and the ability to either write about that in a science fiction novel or a piece of work, or in an artistic way, that it actually moves science forward.
Yeah, sometimes science fiction is the birth of new ideas. So, look at Jules Verne and things like that, and all those things that he wrote about that are real now. So it's not really fiction, is it?
No.
Don't say that. I just saw the 25th anniversary of Jurassic Park last night. Some things should stay fiction.
Some things should stay fiction, right?
Unless it's closely monitored and confined, and I can visit it in Costa Rica. Then it might be okay.
I think, too, the opportunities now that Makerspace is joined with the School of Humanities. I'm very excited about that. If I could, my little joke on one of our recent agendas at a meeting was I said, this is a new one for you, putting the H in STEAM. Don't worry, we won't really go forward with that. But the idea that, again, because a few eyebrows were raised when that alignment was made on the School of Humanities, Makerspace, what do they have to do with each other? But again, coming back to this idea of the opportunity to play, to be inventive, to explore, about emphasizing process over product. I think that's relevant across disciplines. So again, the Makerspace becomes this real opportunity to continue the great work that we've been doing in the STEM area. There's already been a lot of interest and inclusion with visual arts, which is really awesome. But looking forward, I'm excited about the opportunities, learning opportunities for students, in general education disciplines who are coming in maybe to complete a project or do some kind of an extra credit project that will enhance, the traditional in-class learning.
But Andy, it's so true that humanities is important, because if I can't communicate in writing or orally my idea, and it might be an awesome, stellar idea, but if I can't communicate that and work to move that forward, then it just falls dead. And so if we can't go backwards and look what happened in the past and learn from that and integrate that, so humanities are absolutely necessary, and I really appreciate that you said that.
There are some really cool opportunities that are not so obvious. For example, we have currently our ASL department is bringing in. They have a very innovative.
Would you mention what ASL is for people who are listening?
Yes, that would be American Sign Language. So they have a very innovative program, which is deaf-blind support interpreter class, and they're coming in, the students are coming in and using the Makerspace as an opportunity to communicate and describe objects for their interpreter skills. So I'm excited about those kind of very, not so obvious opportunities to collaborate.
perfect out-of-the-box example, because you wouldn't assume that ASL and Makerspace would somehow be able to partner, but that's a great example.
That is a great example. That's wonderful.
And I bet a lot of the ASL kids now at your sites might go, oh, I didn't think about that. I should check out the Makerspace.
Awesome. So in regards to the Makerspace at COC, how not only is it beneficial to the students that attend, what does it do for K through 12 education?
Well, we do a lot of outreach with a lot of schools to expose students that have not been exposed to a makerspace or a hands-on type of environment to kind of show them what it's all about. Go
I
ahead.
didn't mean
No,
to
be my
interrupt.
guest.
Actually, and this is something that is brand new that I haven't talked to Chris about yet.
Oh, okay.
But just
Uh-oh.
this, I
Uh-oh.
warned
Okay,
Andy.
Chris.
No, don't worry, I warned Andy. But on Friday night, I received a text from one of our local teachers at Bridgeport Elementary, and she said, how do I do a field trip to Makerspace? I want to take my kids. And so that's a whole new thing for us where we go, okay, well, we have community hours, and there's specific times of the week that people can come over. You don't have to be a student. You know, if you have a 12-year-old and you want to bring them with you and you're your parent, you're the parent, you're allowed to. But what does it look like to bring a whole class of kids? And so these are new things for us. And that's kind of the cool part of Makerspace, or one of the cool things is as we're running into these new adventures, it's kind of like, great, well, how are we going to work on that? So we're looking for many ways to partner with K through 12, and we're hoping field trips will be
Absolutely.
one of those ways.
That's wonderful. So we're going to take a short break, but please stay tuned because when we come back, we will hear more from our guests from College of the Canyons and iLEAD Schools. You're listening to SCVI Charter Schools, Our Way on the Highway. I'm your host, Chris Nilsson. This is your hometown station, KHTS.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Our caregivers help you in your own home. A Comfort Keeper can provide companionship, meal preparation, medication monitoring, assistance with personal care, transportation to doctor appointments, all enhancing your independence and safety in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So if you or someone you love could use a helping hand at home, call Comfort Keepers at 287-4200. That's 287-4200.
I'm Janet Demeter. My son Jack was born in 2008 on a Saturday night. But 5 weeks later, our family lost everything in the Merrick fire. And then we moved to Santa Clarita, where we live now. Jack was my shining light in those days. He had this huge smile that would make me feel like everything was going to be okay. But when he was 3, our sweet boy was diagnosed with DIPG brain cancer. 9 months later, we lost Jack. This is something I never want anyone else to hear. So I started working to raise awareness. I contacted my local officials, and Steve Knight was amazing. Not just his staff, but Steve Knight personally. Congressman Knight has authored many bipartisan bills signed by presidents from both parties. That is why I was thrilled when he authored HRES 69 to bring national attention to childhood brain cancer. Steve Knight, to me, is the perfect example of a local community leader working on behalf of the people he represents. Thank you, Steve.
I'm Steve Knight, and I approve this message.
Hey, this is Ellen Kay, and did you know EXER More Than Urgent Care is open daily in Stevenson Ranch? EXER is the ER alternative that's built and staffed by ER doctors. With on-site lab, x-ray, and pharmacy, EXER has more medical services than a typical clinic. Walk in and be seen in minutes. Open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. For more information, just go to exerurgentcare.com. That's EXER urgentcare.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 1220 on the AM dial, and now coming to you on FM 98.1. This is Chris Nelson, College and Career Counselor for SCVI Charter School, your host of Our Way on the Highway. Welcome back. Today we've been taking makerspaces and learning about what makerspaces have to offer education, both at a college level and in K through 12. So let's continue our conversation about the K through 12 education.
So we did something that was pretty cool last summer. If you'll remember, we were having a teacher professional learning day or professional development. And so we brought all of our science and arts teachers over, and we spent the morning with you guys, just talking about and brainstorming what are ways that we can do teacher professional development, because we have makerspaces as well. So how can we partner with that to develop best practices, safety practices around how do you, it's kind of scary when you've got a kid using a CNC saw, and there's no, it's scary. Let's call it that. So we did that, and that was really amazing. And that was one of rated. We had like 40 teachers over with you. That was rated as one of the most effective sessions that we ran that week. So thank you.
Excellent.
We came out of that and we talked about how do we get kids over here, and then how do we get teachers over here for more professional learning and hands-on, because frankly, like, I don't know how to use some of that stuff. So that was one thing. And then last year we did the first Space and Innovation Expo at College of the Canyon, where we had many of our iLEAD schools. It was like a science fair on steroids, and kids had been coming up with ideas for experiments that could be run on International Space Station. So they were presenting those ideas to the judges that day. We had the chief scientist of NASA Ames come down for keynote. We had parents there, food, and we had all your cool maker stuff there. So that was one of the most brilliant experiences that we've had, and it was the first time we tried doing what's called a presentation of learning. And we were so thankful that you opened your space to us, and then it just added so much value to what we were doing, because it wasn't like, oh, we're just presenting science ideas, which are cool, because actually one is going up to the space station in November, but it was actually doing stuff with you, and the kids made stuff. That was so brilliant, and we're really happy about doing it again on December 7th.
I know. I was going to say, should we do it again, Kathleen?
Yes. It's second annual, right? Second annual Space and Innovation Expo.
Well, and from our side of the house, just to be totally honest, Kathleen, we didn't know what to expect with the first one. And we were kind of thinking, oh, this will be great. It's a beginning partnership. We'll have some kids here. Some families will show up. And I was there. And I remember standing in the doorway, and at the time, Dr. Ron McFarland was our dean of the Makerspace. And I looked at Ron and I said, we need a much bigger space next time.
It blew us
because
away.
we had more than 30 tables set up, the circle tables in the cafeteria where the children were able to do their presentations of learning. So we thought there would be ample space. But when people started to come, and they just kept coming, and there was, I was going to the door going, Ron, there's buses, there's more buses. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in the rain, in the evening. They were determined to share the learning that they had engaged in. And to have that passion coming from the kids and from the school staff and the parents wanting to be there, it just was really a truly inspirational event. And I can't wait to see what happens with the next version.
Yeah, now this year we're looking for the bigger space, right? Because we have more schools that want to be involved in this. And here's what I want to just publicly say. Ever since we started partnering with you last year, the answer has always been yes. And I just really appreciate that. Hey, what about this? Oh, yes. And what about this? Yes. And so thank you for being a yes and being willing to do risky things with us and try things that are kind of risky, because it is new, right? Who's done that? I don't know.
It's just like when we put on the first Makerspace Festival last year.
Oh, right.
That was brand new for us. We didn't know what that was going to be like. And just as a reciprocal, example, you guys did the same thing. When we needed people to come on board and to help get businesses, it was, here we are, we're here to help. You guys have helped us. Let's work on this together. And so that's just greatly appreciated.
And you guys knocked it out of the park for that Makerspace event, because that was going to be a small kind of in-town thing with a few other colleges. And then everyone said, and now it's the LA area Makerspace event. And now you've owned that, and that's who we are now, and we're together on that. But it's really yours. And so bravo.
I'm so excited, too, because the Makerspace team will be presenting for the first time. The College of the Canyons Makerspace team is presenting at 2 different conferences in October, where we're going to be sharing what we've done in the hopes that other colleges across the state will adapt and adopt it. So if this festival is working for us, this partnership's working for us, who else can it work for? And that's so exciting. It's one thing to do great things at College of the Canyons and for our community, but when you get to a point where your impact starts to reach different communities and more of a statewide level, it's really an honor.
And besides, it's for all of us, not just us. It's all about collaboration, the sharing of knowledge and ideas, and it's working with people to achieve a common goal.
But the truth is, there's a lot of edgy competition out there, and I don't feel that ever here. There's room at the table for everyone. If your kids are winning, our kids are winning. If our kids are winning, your kids are winning. And I just love that aspect, as opposed to, oh, we got to keep the cool stuff to us because it makes us look better. And so thank you for having that openness to everyone and saying there's room at the table for everyone.
Well, your kids are our kids. They're our Santa Clarita kids. Yeah.
That's awesome. Win-win for everyone.
Absolutely.
I love it. Kathleen, can you talk a little bit about Dream Up?
Yeah, thank you. So Dream Up is a project that we work with called Dream Up to Space. We've partnered with Dream Up, which is the sister company to NanoRacks. NanoRacks is the payload integrator to International Space Station. And so we got to partner with them to develop a curriculum where kids learn about microgravity. They answer the question, why do astronauts float? They learn about the scientific method, the engineering design process, and then they write experiments that could be run on space station that an astronaut will actually implement or run rather, and then the kids do the ground-based experiment at the same time. So their experiment, the one that is chosen, goes up to space station. When it comes back down, we do something called post-flight analysis. So we're about to send our third one. Our first one was really cool. It was, what is the effects of oxidation, microgravity on oxidation, excuse me. When that came down, our kids did post-flight analysis at NASA Glenn. And the next one was authored by sixth graders, mind you. Wow. And the experiment went up, and the question was, what is the effects of microgravity on yeast? And part of their proposal, so the kids actually have to write a proposal. So they're all of the, it's cross-curricular project, so it's science, math, history, humanities is all integrated in this project. The kids, one of their reasoning for it was, well, if we go to Mars, we're going to need to have bread and beer. Those kids were a little bit on the precocious side. They were from.
You never know.
Yeah.
Their family might own Pocock or one of our local breweries.
Family owned
you know what I mean?
a pizza parlor, and so they were
totally
used to being
relevant.
around that.
Absolutely.
And so we brought that when that experiment came down. We took those kids up to NASA Ames, and we worked with some microbiologists there doing post-flight, and they were so jealous because they're like, we can't get our experiment on space station. How did you guys get this? So we have our next one going up. I'm talking too much about this, but I'll tell you, this is really cool. This is some 7th grade girls found out. So the kids have to do some research. They have to do research like, what are the questions that we can ask that are going to solve a problem that astronauts and space explorers encounter? Well, it turns out that, man, your body is really nailed up there in space, and they have problems with dental issues. So it turns out that there is now, please no one come in and ask me for the science behind this, but it turns out there's come on, Kath, that black coffee actually kills a microbe in your mouth when you drink it. And so the question is would an astronaut, when they drink black coffee, will it deal with that bacteria? So that's the question, and our kids are partnered. We've really taught them how to reach out to experts. As part of that project, they're required to find and enroll experts in their research. So we have a UCLA doctor who's been working on this project with the kids to optimize the experiment so we get some analysis and some data back. So that's going up on the SpaceX rocket, God willing, on at the end of November.
I have a quick question for you, Kathleen. What age of child at your school gets to be involved in this? Because I heard you mention 7th grade and 6th grade, and that's what you're talking about. Sounds like something that usually like high school students might have access to.
Thank you for asking that. So we wrote the curriculum at a middle school level, and we wrote it at a middle school level for this reason. So it has to have all the standards embedded in it. It's required. We're public charter. That's required. But that way it can be dialed up to a high school level where there's a teacher who teaches IB at our high school, and so it's implemented at that level. And then
Would you remind everybody what IB is?
I'm sorry, International Baccalaureate, so kind of like, advanced placement. Thank you. And then it can be dialed down. We had kids in 5th grade doing this project. So we look at what the standards are for that grade level, and then we can adapt it for that and adapt the whole writing process for that. Then we have also at the same time a design challenge going back into the arts where the kids learn about mission patches and what they represent and how that whole started and how they're developed for missions that are connected to NASA or, now all of the privatized space and aviation have patches. And the kids design patches, and we've sent up now 4 pieces of kid-authored artwork that come back. It's on a little 3x3 piece of paper, comes back stamped from the ISS. And we present that back to the child and their family in a framed with a certificate, but then we also make a copy and it goes to the schools as well. And so the arts are right there. And that way, that's a K through 12 initiatives. So we've had little kids. We had a first grader's artwork go up to space station. Can you imagine that life-changing thing? My art went to the space station. So I love that.
Well, my first year as counselor at SCVI, a graduate who was actually going to College of the Canyons was part of this team, and they sent up an experiment, and they got to go to Florida, and they got to watch it go up, and it was the coolest thing when they presented it to our learners in the high school. It was awe-inspiring. It was amazing.
I love that Kathleen talked about adapting standards, because 11 years ago when the charter for SCVI was written, that was part of the absolute foundation, is that we have this concept that standards are very specific to each grade level and each age, instead of looking at like the child in a different way and kind of looking at a continuum. And so SCVI has kind of shifted in terms of how you work with standards. And as a developmentalist, I appreciate that deeply.
Gosh, Ray, I'm so glad you said that. That's awesome. Wonderful. So you guys have something coming up at College of the Canyons. Would you like to talk about it?
Coming up in October 5th to be exact, we have a manufacturing day going on. And what this is it's a collaboration between our Center for Applied Competitive Technologies, junior high and high school students, as well as industry. So what it is, it's kind of a big show and tell type of thing where the kids will come out and they can tour industry booths and learn about the industry and talk to people and just open themselves to new possibilities and new things. And the great thing is the night before, on October 4th, sometimes there's a stigma that manufacturing is for lack of a better word to put it, a grunt job. That's something that, I want my kid to be a lawyer or a doctor, but actually these manufacturing jobs are highly skilled jobs and highly paid jobs. So on the night before, on October 4th, there is going to be a roundtable session where parents can sit down with industry professionals with their children too and discuss, kind of take away that stigma of these types of jobs and how in demand they are and how important they are and how much skill is involved with these. So this is one of the great things that Makerspace does at College of the Canyons and the industry in our area. The collaboration in Santa Clarita Valley between the schools, between industry and everything, it's just absolutely great. You couldn't ask for more. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to mention too is at College of the Canyons we have a program called the Uniquely Abled Academy, and it's specifically focused on finding people in our community who are on the autism spectrum, bringing them to College of the Canyons to give them some very concrete training in manufacturing and whatnot, and then getting them actually working with the company and then in the field and employable. We're having huge success. And another thing I think is important about what Chris was talking with the manufacturing day, in particular, it's Thursday, October 4th in the evening. What time is that at? And is it at the University Center?
No, it is actually in the Student Center, and it starts at 6 o'clock, I believe, 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay, great. Because I'm thinking, one of the things I think about as a parent with twins in junior high, I want them to not only have a career that they're passionate about, but I don't want them to live with me until they're 35 or 40 years old. I want them to be able, and I love them. Everybody knows Lily and Zach, they're fantastic. But I want them to be able to have careers where they're going to be able to move out of their house, out of our home, and start their own lives. And I think having this opportunity to sit down at the round table where you can talk to industry leaders and quantify what these jobs are. Right. How much will you make? What companies are in Santa Clarita? What companies are in San Fernando Valley? There's so, and how many are related to STEM in terms of manufacturing? Mm-hmm. I know when my husband worked at St. Jude, when my husband was at Boston Scientific, the things that are made in our community change lives.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't even know.
Why can't our College of the Canyon students and our students throughout the Hart District and through all of our schools in Santa Clarita be involved in knowing about that? So it's really kind of a information about what possibilities exist within manufacturing, and just especially in terms of our geographic area and where we are. And it's free and it's open to the community, so hopefully people will come and check it out.
I think we made a little misstep, maybe not, but we pushed university and college so strongly. And I look, I have 4 sons, and we have 4 sons, and that's important. But the debt, what we know now is that the debt is killing our kids.
Yep.
And you mentioned that, so I'm just going to say it. Our first two sons had beautiful scholarships, but they came out with debt. And watching them struggle now, the second two said, "Oh no, we're not doing it that way." And so I have pivoted and changed in my own. I want kids to go to college. Don't get me wrong. I want them to get the skills in high school where they're working their way through college and not coming out with 30, 40, 50, $100,000 worth of debt for a BA that isn't going to make them be able to be able to move out of your house. So my own experiences caused me to shift in this. And so I'm really, if you can go to university and get it paid for, great. But if you're going to come out with debt, it's not a great idea.
COC has been completely responsive to that also, because now we've got the first year promise, and we're looking at a lot of the student, I don't remember exact number, maybe 500 per year, coming from the Heart District in their first year at College of the Canyons. Tuition is paid, their parking is paid, their health fee is paid, their books are paid, and so they're getting this, in a sense, this first year of college free. Kathleen, imagine if, your boys had that first year free. It can make a difference.
And as the college counselor, listening to this and promoting college, of course, as I realize in working with our learners on a daily basis, it isn't always the path for everyone. And I understand that. And driving down the street and seeing these amazing buildings go up and those people sitting at the top and those construction workers and all they're doing, it is so important. And I understand that there are many paths. And yes, we do not want kids to have debt. It's choices. We want our kids to have the most possible choices they can have, and that's right for them. That
and
perfect
to do
fit.
something you're passionate about or that you won't,
Yes.
that you're going to enjoy. Life is long. Do something that makes you feel good and that gives back in some way.
I love that you said that, and I think that this generation of kids is demanding that.
I completely
think
agree
that
with you,
there's
Kathleen.
something that shifted that says, I need to make meaning of my life, I need to bring my best self, I need to bring my own particular genius to this world, and I'm not going to go do something for 8 hours where I hate my life. And so I think that these are the things that are shifting us.
Kathleen, can you talk about your newest innovation, your project?
Sure, I can. So it turns out that we've been asked to open up a charter school in Colorado that is adjacent to an airstrip, in Centennial Airstrip, and it is housed right between Wings Over the Rockies, Black Sky, Exploration of Flight Museum. So it's, a Blue Sky, and then the Black Sky Museum. So our kids it'll be a 6 through 8 middle school. Our kids will be going to school right on Centennial Airport Airstrip. It's it looks like a hangar. They'll be able to open up the door right to an airstrip. They'll be able to use all of the facilities at the Blue Sky and Black Skies Museum. And we were asked to do this by John Barry, who's a former Air Force Major General, who is the CEO of Wings Over the Rockies.
When are you taking us there on a field trip? Can
Yeah,
we do a
I'll
field
be the
trip
first
swap
one.
here, Kathleen?
Yeah, I volunteer. That is so cool.
It makes me weep. It's so cool. And so it turns out that there's this huge deficit of pilots right now, and it's going to only get worse. And so the goal is to expose young people. We'll have a makerspace there. We'll have something called a smart lab there where they get to be exposed to all kinds of STEAM-related innovations, not only technology-based, but hands-on things as well. But the emphasis will be aerospace, so space and aviation.
Kathleen,
And-
I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you mention the hashtag that people can follow, or like your social media handles? Because I follow you, so I get to see, and I bet a lot of other people would love to see kind of just the development of this school and the process that you're going through, because it's unlike, I've never heard of a school like this. And I've been in education for 30 years at this point almost. And,
a great idea.
And so it's
That's
really,
really-
talk about innovation.
That's really that's really sweet. So my Twitter is hashtag KATHDETTE, KATHDETTE. You can find us on Facebook at Colorado Skies Academy, and you can also find our space and aviation projects at iLEAD iLEAD Student Aerospace Projects.
Excellent.
Thanks for asking.
Absolutely.
It's time again for a short commercial break. When we come back, we will have Sue Bird of the Old Town New Hall Association on the air with us. You're listening to SCVI's Our Way on the Highway. This is Chris Nilsson on your hometown station, KHTS.
Do you ever listen but you're not really paying attention? Sort of like what you're doing to me right now. This is Alex Urbina, your advanced life coach specialist. One of the most frequent questions I hear is, what is a life coach? Well, tune in every Friday at noon to learn the value of having a coach and listen to a live coaching session on the radio. Right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
They're at it again. It's yet another attempt to add more government bureaucracy to healthcare. This time it's Proposition 8. And who's behind 8? One labor union trying to impose new government bureaucracy on every medical dialysis clinic in California. It's a complete abuse of our initiative system. And even worse, it puts bureaucracy between patients and their doctors. And Prop 8 will force dialysis clinics to cut back services or shut down, sending thousands of sick patients into already crowded ER rooms. Experts warn Prop 8 will cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Join groups representing doctors, nurses, and taxpayer advocates in voting no on 8. Stop this costly dialysis proposition. Paid for by no on Proposition 8. Stop the dangerous dialysis proposition. Sponsored by the California Dialysis Council. Committee major funding from DaVita and Fresenius Medical Care North America.
Hey there, it's Tori with your hometown station. Weather mostly sunny this week with highs in the upper 80s to low 90s. Clear in the overnight with lows in the 60s. It happens right here. Human trafficking and how to make a difference. A presentation happening September 21st at College of the Canyons. Survivor Harmony Dust will be the keynote speaker. Admission is free and refreshments will be served. This Friday at the COC Valencia campus starting at 8:30 a.m. Learn how this very serious subject can affect our community. For more information, go to hometownstation.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 1220 on the AM dial, 98.1 on the FM dial. This is Chris Nelson of SCVI Charter School, your host for Our Way on the Highway. Thanks for coming back. So we've had such a jam-packed show today. We talked about College of the Canyons. Thank you guys for coming in and talking about maker spaces. We talked about Dream Up. And now I would like to introduce Sue Bird. We're in Newhall. And would you please talk about who you are and why you're here?
Well, I am the current chairman of the Old Town Newhall Association, and I am here to let your listeners know about the upcoming Santa Clarita Chalk Festival, which will be starting tomorrow at 6 a.m. and running through Sunday, 4 p.m. So,
what is the Old Town Newhall Association? What does it do?
This is an organization of merchants, local citizens, that just wanted to invest their time in Old Town Newhall, being one of the center communities of this valley, dating back to the 1860s and further on back. And they find a lot of historical interest in it and its evolution through the years, and they want to keep it going. You know, a lot of people don't know about Newhall. It's surprising. You know, we are all so insulated in our own little what would be the right word? Our own, we go to work, we take our kids to school, we walk the dog. Yeah, we have our routine, and that we don't, you know, venture forth into a community that maybe have been there for 100 years. It's just not on our map, you know, and come on down.
It's such a shame because there's so many new businesses and so many fun things to do for families and date nights. People just don't really have an idea. Just today I drove down and was like, oh, wow, there's a new restaurant I didn't even know opened up. There's a new wine tasting. You just don't, there's so much action.
Right.
People have got to be coming down regularly, really, to be seeing what's happening.
Yeah, almost on a weekly basis it changes down here. I mean, you know, there's new features, there's new shows to go to. The Canyon Theater Guild, both continually have new venues.
Senses on Main is a huge.
A Thursday event. There's always things happening down here. So, you know, come on down, explore Newhall. This is a fun weekend where you can chalk, and whether you know how to chalk, you just like to look to chalk, you can participate. We have public participation areas, so you can just get down on your hands and knees and chalk away. Or we have an area where if you're not able to get down on your hands and knees. We have tabletop areas where you can chalk on chalk paper, and we do have some chalkboards available.
We'll have to tell our makerspace artists, because we have some artists in our group that that would probably come and do some pretty fantastic
absolutely.
things at the Chalk
Absolutely,
Festival.
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. The theme for this year is wonder, wit, and whimsy.
Oh, yeah.
So it gives you a lot of leeway in imagination, fantasy, just all kinds of opportunity. So, and we have youngest is Boy Scouts, or Cub Scouts, and our most senior individual, who will be turning 85 at the event. So we will come on down and sing happy birthday to Rudy. So
That's great.
That sounds great.
yeah. So
Yeah, I actually live in Simi Valley, so I don't know a lot about Newhall, and it's I feel so lucky being able to hear this information. It sounds so wonderful. How would I be able to get involved? Is the Newhall Association a member organization?
yes, it is, but you know, and we'll have membership applications. Come to the booth, and we have applications, and you can fill it out and join the group. You know,
So
and we have
what
monthly.
time is the festival?
It starts at 10.
Okay.
And
And is it
runs
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Yes, both
Okay.
days, all 3 days. It starts at 10 a.m. On Friday, we're closing at 5. On Saturday, we're going till 6, and then on Sunday, we close at 4. You know,
Great.
so come on down. You know, stroll around,
Excellent.
check
We
it
have some
out.
It'll be a
Kids.
good weekend for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we have some kids going to the event and
Yes.
participating.
Yes,
From
yes,
SCVI, our art
yes, we
program.
do.
So that's wonderful.
Looking forward to their art. So.
Is there a tree lighting ceremony coming up soon?
Yes, there is. The tree lighting ceremony will be on November the 17th. And I believe the tree lighting ceremony starts at 6 p.m. Main Street will be closed from Lyons till 6th Street, because there is such a
Just a huge gathering.
huge gathering.
It's a big party. Hopefully,
It is.
everybody should come out for that.
It is, and the Sip and Shop precedes that. It starts at, I believe, 2 and then runs till 6. So that's a group of merchants down here that put together a raffle, you know, and you go from business to business and check it out. So,
I went last year. It
yeah.
was so much fun, and we didn't know about the raffle. We accidentally found out about it. It was a blast. I was shocked how many businesses had
Yes.
wonderful things to do and to see. I got to go into new businesses I'd never been to before.
Right, and that's a great opportunity. Everybody's, you know, check out the different stores that have opened
Absolutely.
up. So.
Are these streets just filled with people?
Yes, there was conservatively last year, over 5,000 people down here.
When the
my
tree
gosh.
lights,
Yes,
it's
when
like
the
the
trees-
whole half of the street
Yeah,
is
the-
just filled.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
it's dark.
beautiful.
They turn down the lights, you know, and then there's a countdown, and then it goes up, and it's beautiful.
What another example of something wonderful the
Yeah.
community does.
So I have to say, Newhall has it going on, and I've got to be more part of this community. This is Chris Nelson with SCVI Charter Schools, Our Way on the Highway. I want to thank our guests, Sue Bird, Kathleen Fredette, Renee Marshall, Chris Walker, and Andy McCutcheon. I want to thank our listeners for being with us today here on your hometown station, KHTS, on your AM dial at 1220, on your FM dial at 98.1. We'll be back next month, and we hope you will be too.
Life's not meant to feel complacent. It's meant to make you feel alive. The youth ministry at the Church on the Way Santa Clarita believes that students can